Hello, welcome back to Ana Dialogue, the dialogue on analog music reproduction, and welcome back to the original studio of Ana Dialogue. Yes, my vacation is already done. Okay, so the big question is, what happened to HD vinyl? What is happening? What are the details? What are the issues? What are the problems? When is it going to be released? Well, we're lucky because I was able to discuss all these topics together with Gunter Loibl, the founder of Rebeat and of this concept of HD vinyl. Let's take a look. Okay. So again, thank you. Well, let's start. Tell me, please, where does the HD vinyl idea come from? Tough question.
To tell you that, I think I need to explain a little bit more about my person.
Sure.
I'm in the music business already for 30 years. I was working for a big musical instrument manufacturer. And in the year 2000, I started my first own business. I started physical music distribution, so I sold CDs and DVDs in Austria and Germany. 2004, when the first music load, iTunes, OD2 at that time came up, the first digital service providers for music. We started also with digital music distribution. And I'm always the one who is, or let's say that way, there are two big topics that are really describe my life. It's music and it's technology. And in the digital music distribution, which still is our biggest business, we were always quite ahead of the rest of the business when it comes to technology, and we still are. So we were the first one integrating artist accounting into the distribution software, because we found out that when music streaming will enter the mass market, there will be such a lot of accounting data, revenue accounting data for the music labels. They will not be able to handle it. And we were completely right. And we were the first one building what we call distribution matrix. You will get that. It's if somebody is interested in, you can get the explanation on the website. I just want to explain why technology is so important. And it was for almost 5 years ago, when we, like we always do, we listen to our music labels and their needs and their workflow and want to know where we can help them with technology. And it was 5 years ago when a lot of music labels were saying, no, digital music is not the problem. Everything is fine. We have a problem with vinyl releases because there is a production gap of almost 6 months. So when we order a batch of vinyls, we will get it 6 months later, and this is nearly impossible to plan a release. Okay, and I thought by myself, this entire vinyl production process is nearly the same since 60 years, and nothing really has changed so far. And I took a look at the process, and I immediately it popped up immediately that with the presses itself, it's difficult to do some technological enhancements, because pressing is pressing, and you need a hydraulic pump, you need steam in this case. Maybe there's something you can do with that, but the technological step would not be that big. But there was a huge possibility in producing the stampers, where the stampers are those plates that you need for pressing vinyl. This is where the information will bring to the vinyl record, and
where you lose it also.
Yeah. And the traditional vinyl record starts with a lacquer The lacquer is cut by cutting lathe, so that means the audio is really cut into the groove, and then you chemically copy it in most cases 3 times, and then you have the nickel stamper. And this chemical copying process it's not only very toxic, you're losing information and you're adding noise. So, and beside that, the nickel stamper is something that degrades quite fast, because PVC is a very chemically aggressive material. So in every pressing step, there will be, they pull out molecules of the nickel. So that means you can use the nickel stamper for, let's say, 500, 2,500 copies, and then you have to replace it. And also there was an issue with the cutting lathe. The cutting lathe, the stylus is per design overheats when you put too much high frequencies in it. So that means you need to reduce high frequencies.
True.
And there were a lot of those issues we would like to address. And then I had the idea to say, okay, why don't we use laser technology and use ceramic material for a stamper? That will solve all the problems. And I am not a scientist. I don't even know a lot about photonics. So I had to find someone who knows a lot about this. And that was the point where I met Volker Schmidt. So when you say that I'm the father of HD vinyl, then you need to say that he's the mother. And this analogy is really good, because I had the idea that was a very short and small and funny thing, but Volker has now made this come into reality. So yeah, anyway, but he's the genius behind that technology. Yeah, and so far we did exactly, or we pulled the jigsaw puzzle together, and what we did, we developed a system where we take digital high resolution audio files. The more resolution, the better. And we import that into a computer software we developed by our own. It's called Perfect Groove. It's especially designed for mastering HD vinyl.
I have some questions on that then after.
Sure.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And within the software, the audio files will be transferred into a 3D model of the stamper. That has a lot of advantages. One advantage is that, of course, you can make adjustments very easily without using a lacquer every time and throw it away. It shows you the immediately where the limitations are. So this software also exactly shows you
adjust.
Yeah, where the amplitudes would exceed the normal parameters, or whether the velocity of the needle is too fast, or which would result in distortion. So you can see all these things, and there is a virtual needle in the system that follows the groove, so you can immediately not only see it, but you can also hear it. And this system also, so you get a much, at the end of the day, you get a much better result, because you can move much further to the limits than you would be able to do without. And also there is another advantage, due to the fact that we know the amplitude of the groove at every time on the record. We can virtually remove the gaps in between. So this will result in a longer playing time, or you can use this additional space for higher or bigger amplitude, which will result in more volume.
I think this is very, very interesting, because a lot of people, I'm sure, that are just looking on your site, or maybe a few posts on Facebook, have the idea that it's just a high resolution engraving, we could call it. But it's not. I mean, you're revolutionizing the whole concept, the way you master also vinyl. It's a combination. The whole process is completely reviewed, and
exactly.
Actually it sounds better, much better, because It sounds amazing. So really, congratulations for all
Thank you.
these steps you're. I know it still has to go into process, but it's clear that you're going in the right direction. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, it was let's say it that way. At the beginning, the first steps in development were quite fast. So the first steps were to find a way to design the groove and to make it perfect from the shape, because there is a norm which describes the groove, and due to the fact that we stay compatible to all the existing turntables, we wanted to deliver the best possible groove. That was the quite easy and fast way. The difficult way, and this is where we are still in, is suddenly that we find out that we are, or let's say it that way, that the high-end discipline at creating a groove is to create a silent groove. Because on the silent groove, without any modulation, you can see how good the system is working. And that silent groove, it means no modulation inside the groove, but also means no noise, no strange sounds. Nothing. It means just zero, just nothing. Of course, you will always have a noise floor from the
vinyl itself.
The vinyl itself, but there should be no others in that groove, and that turned out really to be very, very difficult, because it's the problem is that we are using a lot of components. There is that, of course, there is the laser, there is the lens, there is the scanner, there is the stage, there is the controlling software. So a lot of components are used and they have to work together perfectly to match that zero groove goal or requirement we internally. And it turned out that in this that the human ear is times more sensitive than, let's say, the ear. So that means even the smallest mistake there, you can immediately hear. You will never see it on a microscope, but you can hear it. And that really turned out to be, this was the obstacle we never expected. Because, of course, nobody has walked this way before, so there are no experience and no developments that have been done before on that segment. So every obstacle there is, you can be sure that you will find it.
Of course.
And
that was one of the questions, actually. Why do you think nobody else is doing this, or at least openly?
I don't know why nobody is doing this, but I can tell you that it's really, really, really difficult. We are moving, or we are exceeding the limits every day. So it's to imagine that all these different components are working. For example, the scanner. We have really the best scanner. Scanner is the part of that, or the component where the laser goes in, and there are mirrors inside, and these mirrors are opening, let's say, a scanning field, so that you get a bigger working surface on the substrate, technically explained. And this scanner, we have the best scanner available on the market, and this scanner is used for absolutely high-end and sophisticated applications, like polishing high-end lenses for space telescopes and all these kind of things. So it's really the state-of-the-art, best technology you can, or edge technology you can get. In optical, exactly, yeah, and it's very expensive, of course. But the thing was that, as I said, a lot of applications are done with this scanner, really high-end applications, and all the companies working with it are really satisfied. But none of these companies were doing acoustic things. So what we found out was that this scanner, when you reduce the speed, and we started with a low speed, low scanning speed, suddenly you get noise into the groove, because the components or that the mirrors and the masses and the weights are putting noise, somehow putting noise into the groove. So what we found out, so the first thing was, oh shit, we have noise in the groove. What do we do? Where does it come from? So it takes you about 4 weeks to find out where this comes from, because you really have to check all the components and move around the parameters. And then we knew, okay, it's coming from the scanner. Let's see if we start to accelerate the scanning speed, let's see if the noise is still there. And then we found out that at a specific and very small speed window, the scanner is working really perfect. But when you reduce the speed, or when you accelerate the speed over that window, suddenly you get noise in the groove. So nobody had experienced this before, because nobody did it. So on the lens for the space telescope, it's not a problem, because of course it will make mistakes, but they are so low that the optical system doesn't really see it, let's say it that way. But when it comes to acoustics, you immediately hear that noise. And that's the reason why we are already 1 year. It's of course, there was some corona issues with longer shipment times, but it's more or less, let's say 60% is coming from exactly that
This problem.
From this problem, from the
did you solve that, or are you still trying to reduce that?
We're still dealing with that problem, because it's not only the scanner, it's also the laser beam itself, it's the lens, it's the stage, so each of those components are working in a way, with the precision we need, in a very, very small window. And our art now, I would say not science, our art is now to find that optimal window for each and every component, and then let those components work together with their optimal window, and find a way to manage all these things. That's where we are adjusting now, and researching around, and it's very time consuming. So because you have such a lot of parameters, and when you adjust one parameter, suddenly on another component, another parameter influences that. So it's really building up a house of cards, like, and when you move one out, and that makes it so difficult. So we expected that. But on the other hand, we are making progress. So we have internal prototypes, and they are really sounding very, very promising. So it will still take some time to solve that jigsaw puzzle. But once it's done, I can promise that the result will be very, very good. And there is another reason why we decided to make no compromise on that. Some might say that we are that it might be already, or let's say that way, that a lot of people might not even hear that noises and that sounds. The problem is, we decided to bring the product to the market when we are satisfied internally, because the first thing, everyone who will be able to buy an HD vinyl will be that people will try to measure and test it, and really find out if it's if the promises has been kept. And you can imagine what happens if there are small sounds and noises in the lead-in groove or in the lead-out groove, even if they are in the same way like you have it on a traditional vinyl. You will be sure that people will definitely start to complain about it. And so we decided to really take our time and really make it perfect, and not do any compromises on that.
I agree. It's a good decision, because you are reinventing the whole process. I mean, it's not just doing the little mold, it's everything, the software, all these, the scanner. I mean, and who knows how many other things there are involved. So it's reasonable. No, the problem is that you did announce it several times that it was about to happen. That's why people are so anxious to know. But I think people are starting to understand that something good is about to come, but obviously you need time to do it well.
Yeah, you can believe me. We have, I would say, not even the most pessimistic guys in our team would have expected that kind and that amount of obstacles that we found there on this road to HD vinyl. It was really unbelievable. And the crazy thing is, there are no shortcuts.
Of course.
So you cannot move around and say, okay, I deal with that tomorrow or something like this. No, you have to do each and every step by step. And we are making progress. And as I said, the internal demos we have are quite promising. But they're still not, we're still not there where we want to be. And it will take some time. But once we will go to the market, you can be sure that you will get really a very, very, very good product.
Well, since we're talking about it, a rough idea, like it's more like 2 years, 5 years, 1 year, roughly.
You know, that the problem is, in the past, I always
I know.
estimated and predicted, and every time I was wrong. So there are two ways I can do it right now. I can tell you 5 years, because I'm sure that we won't survive that from the financial standpoint. We'll not have 5 years to develop. So that means I must be wrong again. It's really difficult to say. It's really difficult to predict. Let's say it that way. I hope that we will have an internal prototype that matches our requirements by the end of the year. But as I told you, one parameter influences the other one, and suddenly you need another 2 months. So it's really, really difficult to predict.
Okay, no, but I understand that. And I think even the people who are going to watch this video will also. Let's go back a second to the Perfect Groove software. Is that still in beta, or it's more or less done, ready?
Well, it's available now. You can do, it was funny because we started to develop this software for HD vinyl mastering. And it was at the Making Vinyl in Berlin 3 years ago, when we showed the beta version to the public. And there have always been, there have also been some cutting engineers there, mastering engineers, and they saw the software and said, I'm not interested in HD vinyl, but I want to have this for my traditional analog cutting.
I bet. You have full control of everything.
Yeah, because I can simulate everything before I have to waste another lacquer, which is quite expensive. And then we decided to, because it was a quite a tough internal discussion, because we said, okay, we give an advantage that makes HD vinyl much better than traditional vinyl suddenly to traditional vinyl. So that means traditional vinyl will get better, and the gap between traditional vinyl and HD vinyl will not be so big. But on the other hand, and we decided to open this because we said, okay, if traditional vinyl gets better as well, at the end of the day, we are all in the vinyl business, and if there is a possibility to improve the existing system, why not do it that way? Because maybe not everyone will buy HD vinyl in the future. You will have maybe a lot of audiophile people, and they still want to buy triple A analog high quality pressings much more than they would like HD vinyl. So why not give them a chance to get a better product as well? And that was the decision when we said, okay, we open this little Pandora box for the traditional vinyl cutting engineer and give him the possibility to improve that. And it was really funny because that was at the point where there was no Apollo fire. So there were enough lacquers on the market. And when a few months after we decided to do that, there was the Apollo fire where this lacquer factory completely burned down in the US, and suddenly 2/3 of the capacity of the production capacity of lacquers was gone. And so that was good luck or whatever, or bad luck. But it's in this case, it helped cutting engineers to use less lacquer because they can simulate it on the software.
Of course. Great. Incredible. So this is already available, actually.
It's already available, yeah.
Fantastic. I didn't know that. Great to know.
Not for HD vinyl because it's not on the market, but
no,
for
of course,
vinyl you can use it.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, because I read on your site about this, that a key factor in the production of HD vinyl is going to be this conversion of the current stampers who wants to do HD vinyl. So, and you're developing this special mold. Can you talk a little bit about this and some details and how this is going to happen for the current pressing plants?
Yeah, it's also a very interesting story how it came to this point, because originally we didn't want to develop molds. That's far away from our core business, and the initial idea was to find partners, traditional spare parts suppliers that might make some additional business with the HD vinyl molds. And the idea was that they should develop those molds. And we signed contracts with them, but it turned out that nobody really did anything. So we said, okay, we need to start with the test pressings. And if we don't have a mold, we cannot do this. And the other ones were saying, if we don't have the stampers, we will not start designing a mold. I said, okay, guys, that's not gonna work that way. We will quit that contract and we will start the designing the molds by ourselves. What we did, and the shape of the mold is completely the same like you have it with a traditional mold. It's the 2-lex alpha design, so it will fit to any kind of press. The modification is inside the mold, so there is an additional vacuum channel system where the stamper will be sucked on. So technically you need to modify your pressing machine with a vacuum pump, which is not a big issue. What we now are trying to find out is how we can optimize that pressing process. So I would say it that way, if you have a pressing plant with one of the existing pressing machines like a Phoenix Alpha, 2-lex Alpha, or a viral press or a new build, you can be sure that HD vinyl will work with just very, very few modifications on your press as well. So your only investment will be the mold from the pressing plant perspective. And that investment you will have anyway, because the mold, the traditional mold, will not last forever. And in this case, you just replace the traditional mold by HD vinyl mold, and that's it.
How much would that be? Is it going to be expensive, or you already know the cost?
It will be a little more expensive than a traditional mold.
But it lasts longer.
But it will last longer because our mold is very or designed in a way that I will not say it will last forever, but it will really, really last. I would say 3 times to 5 times longer than a traditional mold. So that was the story. So we didn't really want to do that, but we had to.
No, of course. So do you already have an idea of the distribution? I know this is a difficult question. Like, is it going to be mainly in Europe, mainly in America, both contemporary? Is there already an idea in this sense?
I think this will definitely be a worldwide topic, at least something I can estimate based on the question and requests we get. So it will be a topic from Japan over Australia, Asia, Europe, and of course the United States.
I see. Great. No, good. It depends, obviously, from the market, the response, clearly. But I'm sure since you are taking your time and developing everything, I'm sure the response is going to be good. Because, for example, I just want to make this example. Like, I'm an analog guy, obviously. I have a channel dedicated on that. But for example, I like to put digital music on cassettes, on analog tape. And I think something like that is going to take place. So HD vinyl could take a place in those hardcore audiophiles that only like AAA productions. I think something very special is going to come out of this. And it's going to have that warm sound after all, even if it comes from digital files. What do you think?
Everything comes from digital files since more than 20 years.
No, well, of course.
You will not have there are just, I think, 1% or 2% of all the recordings are made really analog. But 99% of all the music you have right now is mixed, recorded, and mastered digitally. So this analog card doesn't really count anymore. And regarding the market, I'm not so sure if HD vinyl will be just for audiophiles. I could imagine that, because
the beginning maybe
that it really will reach the mass market, because it's from the production cost, it's not so much more than traditional vinyl. And I think when of course, like always, when a new medium is coming to the market, at the beginning it's a little more expensive than the traditional one. But as time goes by, this gap will close, and at the end of the day, if, let's say, HD vinyl costs you 2 or 3 euros more per record than traditional vinyl, no one will buy traditional vinyl anymore, because you get the much better product.
Of course.
So that's the reason why I'm very confident that it will turn out to go into the mass market, rather than just a niche audiophile market.
But you think we're going to need, to get the maximum out of HD vinyl, specific dedicated cartridges, or not necessarily?
Well, that's, I would say it that way. You can play back the HD vinyl with your existing system, and it will sound within the possibilities of your existing system. Of course, if you put on a better cartridge, maybe a specifically HD vinyl dedicated cartridge, then of course you might get those higher frequencies, all the other things you don't get with a traditional one. But it's not necessary. And I would also say, for maybe the most of the people, I'm quite confident that if they buy a good turntable with a good cartridge on it, it will definitely match their needs. And if there is really the audiophile super ear, because there's also the reason not every human being has the same hearing capacities.
Yes.
So some people hear differences, some people do not hear the differences. So it doesn't make sense for someone who just wants to enjoy the good sounding, warm music from vinyl, but doesn't hear 28 kilohertz. He will not buy the high frequency cartridge, or it's not necessary for him. But on the other hand, there are definitely people that, I would not say maybe not hear it consciously, but they can tell you the differences.
No, of course.
And when you measure it, you find out that they were right. So it's not just bullshit. It's really a fact. And those people, I could easily imagine that they will go for the better cartridge. But those people might also have the much better speakers, the much better amplifiers, because when they hear the difference, it's like it's like car. When you are a talented driver, you will rather go for a Porsche than you go for a Dacia or whatever. If you just want from A to B, and you're not, it doesn't make a difference for you if you drive in that car, So it's quite similar to that.
So do you listen to vinyl? Are you a true analog fan, or analog media, or also digital streaming? Just to know a little bit about yourself.
I listened, well, I have to say that the lion's share of my listening definitely is digital, because it's in the car. It's when I'm on the road, in the car, not in the airplane anymore since 1.5 years. I hope that this will change soon. But of course, at home, I listen to vinyl music as well, and it's fast food and slow food. So if you are hungry and do not have time, you go to the next McDonald's restaurants, buy a Big Mac, and everything is fine.
I agree.
But if you want to enjoy your meal, and if you want to, to really put that into the middle of your experience, then the Big Mac might not really be the right thing. Then you go to a restaurant with a very good cook. You maybe order the right wine for your food. So it's you enjoy it, and you take your time to enjoy it. And that's similar with vinyl music. It's definitely not fast food, but
of course,
you take your time. You take the cover artwork, you can read about the musicians, you maybe read the lyrics or whatever is in there, and it's not, there's also the analogy with a cigarette and a cigar.
True.
But I think you can understand what, and this is what I do. So whenever I take my time to enjoy music, it's vinyl. It's always vinyl.
Great, good to know. Well, okay. Do you have anything you want to add? Say something? I don't know. Something special that nobody knows? I would love to have that information.
Me too. Especially the lottery numbers from next week.
Not that, but
oh, well, is there something?
I'll give you a hint. Tell me, this was actually my last question. What do you think is the most revolutionary part of HD vinyl? Or the software, the ceramic mold, I don't know.
It's the combination of all of these things. It's and that's also one of the things that makes it so difficult, because you're not dealing with one. Let's say that you're not dealing only with laser, because then you will get the best photonic specialist, which we already have, and solve the problems there, and everything is fine. But when it turns out that you need a software, and you need to develop the software as well, and this software was also there is nothing on the market like this. Nobody has done it before.
Yes, exactly.
Because nobody needed it before. So we had to reinvent not only the way we work with the laser and the ceramic stamper. We also had to invent a software, and we also had to reinvent more or less the molds. So it was not it's not one invention. It's three inventions at least.
Yeah, and as you said, one influences the other one. So it's difficult. No, but we understood that, I think. Well, okay, Gunter, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, for giving us some information. And thank you for bringing vinyl in the 21st century, because I'm sure this is going to be a new, very exciting starting point.
We will do a follow-up when we have the first prototype.
Oh, yes, please.
But then we will not talk so much. We will let people listen to that.
Okay. I'm waiting for a test pressing, please.
Me too. For a working one, for one that really matches our requirement. Anyway,
absolutely,
we will have that. And as soon as we have that, we will do a follow-up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you, Gunter.
Okay, here we are back again. Well, I must admit that that was quite interesting, and I want to thank again Gunter for being so available and to answer all my questions. And absolutely, we are going to do this follow-up as soon as HD Vinyl is ready, and we truly are all waiting for this because I am pretty sure that this is going to be a new phase, a completely new era for vinyl. And this is the inception. Thank you again for watching, and remember that music was born analog. Well guys, if you're enjoying my videos and you're enjoying my channel, please consider to subscribe by clicking the black and white logo here below. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode and you will become a true member of the analog community.